Alrighty, guys, it is happening. If you buy beats online, people are making beats with AI and then uploading them to websites like BeatStars and then selling them as if they are just normal beats. And people are buying them and using them and recording them and releasing them and sometimes don't even know that the beats were AI. So in today's video, we're going to talk about how you can identify if the beat you just bought is made by AI or not, if you can't already tell. And generally people can tell, but I work in a studio. I work with the hundreds of artists, and it's starting to happen more and more frequently when people are bringing in instrumentals that are made by Suno or one of these other popular AI music making apps, and they have no idea, right? They have no idea until I tell them, like, your beat is an AI beat. But okay, let's talk about how to tell. Let's take a listen to this fine piece of production here. And that's to say, a lot of these AI beats, they're very compelling. They're very compelling pieces of music. And that's why people like them and people gravitate to them, because they are so dynamic a lot of times. But let's just first talk about sonically what's going on. So the thing that I always listen for, and we're going to get into concrete things you can identify if you can't hear this, but just listen to the high frequencies and listen to that metallic kind of artifacty sound that sounds, it could just be a low quality thing, but it's oftentimes that's just the way drums and high frequency sounds sound in AI production, is they have this sort of aliasing, sort of metallic, brittle sound in the high frequencies. Pay real close to those open hats and tell me if those sound like good open hats. Like, would you choose that sample? Anyways, okay, besides that though, besides it just like not sounding good, let's talk about the actual kind of concrete things we can do to identify an AI beat. And the first red flag here, there's a few things to look at visually here. The first thing is that there is no visually identifiable arrangement. See how it's just kind of sound salad. Even though there are distinct parts in this beat, and you can tell it's the same. Every time that bass plays, it looks different. It sounds a little different, even though it's technically the same part. Now, if we have traditional production, which I have a beat right here that is a non-AI beat. Let's take a look at this here. You can see there are visually clearly defined patterns in the arrangement. And maybe if this AI beat were a little longer, it would also resemble that. But a lot of times it's just kind of, like I said, it's just informational salad, and it's just looping and looping. And again, if this were a band and these were all live track outs, your production might look like this. But this is not a band with live trackouts. This resembles something that was produced on a computer, and music that is produced on a computer does not look like this, interestingly enough. So that's the first thing. There's no visually identifiable patterns in the arrangement. So that's your first red flag. The second thing to look out for, and this is another kind of easy giveaway, although it doesn't mean that your beat was made by AI, but it is an indicator that it might be, is that your drum stem is a single file. Now, again, that doesn't mean that's not the smoking gun, but almost all these AI beats, they have a drum stem that is a single file, just a drum bus. And the thing to look out for here is that, and this is to me, the surest telltale sign of AI production is variations in the grid. Now, traditionally, when you tracked out music and you were playing in a band, of course, everything is going to be slipping around on the grid, because that's just the nature of playing music. No one's a perfect metronome. But in the day and age of making music on computers, especially synthetic sounding music, it's all going to be snapped on the grid. Now with these AI beats though, it used to be dead obvious because none of them ever stuck to the grid, but now they have the option to make the tempo consistent or follow the BPM when you export the stems out of Suno, and that makes it more editable and usable. But take a look at this. If I copy this part of the drum loop here and put it right here next to its friend later down in the loop, you'll see that Look at that. If we zoom way in, not only do the samples aren't actually the same, but they're actually slightly timing-wise off of each other. You see there's variations in the transient. And this isn't a human error thing. This isn't a swing thing. This isn't a playing off the grid kind of stylistic thing. This is a AI timing thing. You can see this one, the second loop on the bottom there is consistently ahead of that one, and it moves around, right? It's just not consistent. And that's, again, that doesn't make it sound bad. That doesn't mean it's bad music. That makes it, if anything, more human. But producers aren't manually programming drums like that. If we put it over here, you can see the same thing. The consistencies this time are different. You know, it's a different inconsistency in the timing, in where all the transients are lining up. So that's the big dead giveaway for me, is that when the pocket of the grid is shifting from pattern to pattern to pattern ever so slightly, that's how you know. Because in traditional production, when you're using MIDI to program drums, if you take that loop and we copy it over, like, those things are going to line up exactly. Like, look at that. They're exact because it's the same sample on the same pattern. See, it's the exact same. And that's normal for programmed drums in contemporary production. That's normal. Okay. So we talked about the lack of visual pattern consistency. We talked about the grid. Now, the next thing to check is crosstalk between the stem channels. And what I mean by that is sounds in one stem that should be happening in another, or stems that have a part of one. It's the sound is split between two stems in a weird way. This doesn't necessarily mean, it could just mean that the beat was split with AI. But if you're buying your beat on a beat marketplace and it has this crosstalk, it generally indicates that the beat was made by AI. And here's an example of that here. If we take a look at this wonderful cowbell sound, the 808 cowbell, iconic sound, it's stemmed out onto its own stem called percussion. If we look at this one here, it's a standard. It looks like a normal sample, 2 cowbell hits in a row. Now if we go over here, well, that's weird. That doesn't look the same at all. And it doesn't sound the same either. But then when we take a look at some of these other stems, we realize that part of that cowbell is on the backing vocal stem, part of it is on the drum stem, and part of it is on the cowbell. So this cowbell is transient, and its tail got split between the drum stem, the backing vocal stem, and if I play all those together, we'll hear the full cowbell. Oh, excuse me, and the drum stem. We'll hear the full cowbell. It's all there, but it's split between 3 different stems, and that's fucking weird. You know, that's dead giveaway. Here's an egregious. It's so random. You've got this bass stem which is doing its thing, and then you've got the 808 cowbell just randomly printed on the bass stem right there with a little delay. So weird. But that's going to be a dead giveaway. Is the crosstalk between the channels. The other thing that I want to talk about with the AI sounds, and this is, you know, a lot of people just can't hear the difference, and that's okay. If you can't hear the difference, that's fine. But remember that it's the same how when you look at an AI photo or an AI video, and it just has that texture and that quality where you can just tell, like, that's some AI shit, because it is just visual information organized in a way, organized into patterns that our brain interprets as a symbol and as an image. And it's the exact same thing with audio. Like, these keys, does that actually sound like somebody playing the keys, or does it just sound like information that is formed in a way that resembles keys being played? And that's literally what it is. The big thing that I always listen for is the bass stem. The bass stem just always is so wonky. Now you could get a sound that sounds like that if maybe you have a lot of automation and sidechain on there, but it just doesn't sound like an actual synth part. It just sounds like low frequency vibes, you know. It's and of course a little cowbell in there. But you know, don't worry too much about this. Just keep an eye out because it's happening and it's worth checking in on. If you do use AI beats, you know, more power to you. Go for it. I could care less, but I do think there are some legal implications. And it just, yeah, you know, do your thing. And not for me, but do your thing. But you should know. And that's why I'm making this video. Is if you don't know, you should check so that you can know. Because if I bought a beat on BeatStars from a producer and found out it was AI, I would want a refund. And if you have anything you want me to check in on, is it AI? You know, we love that game. We love that game. You know, that's the game of 2026. Is it AI? Drop it in the comments. Let me get my little ears on it. See if I can tell. But otherwise, stay safe out there. Have fun making music. Don't forget to have fun. It's the most important thing. We all getting so serious about this stuff, but don't forget to have fun. And I'll catch you next time. Peace.